Hi everyone, my name is Javi and I can draw, and this is the third day of the body types week, and I want to show you something that I've been doing, so let's go. Okay, so what I've been seeing is that from what I've been investigating, when you have to talk about body types for like really just human, normally proportionate persons and not so much as cartoonish persons, what you have are basically three types of body. One that is like really skinny and lacks of muscle and lacks of fat. One that has a lot of muscle, and then one that has more fat than muscle. Given that idea, I did this that I have here, which is like this really skinny without not a lot of muscle, not a lot of fat type of character shape and body type. And what I did was I kind of cloned that shape. And what I did was start to draw different body types on top of that shape, just to keep the same like bone structure, so to speak. So the first one I did after the skinny one is this one that is like some sort of athletic guy that is muscular. He has really broad shoulders, a really narrow waist and hips. Then I went and I did not this one. Then I did this type that is like more stronger, a lot more muscular, more exaggerated, with really like big legs. It's a little bit bulkier, a little bit like athletically it would be like slower, more like a rugbyer kind of type, or football, like American football player. Like the one on the left is more like a regular football player, or more like a superhero kind of Spider-Man kind of body type. And then I went to the other side, which is less muscle and more fat. And I did this character that has like, not really broad shoulders, but it's really like this big belly and has to have big legs to carry that weight that he's carrying around. You will see that actually people that had a lot of fat in their body because they're moving a lot of weight also have some muscle, like real big muscle beneath all that fat, because they have to be able to move it. I mean, not like me, that I'm like relatively super skinny and I don't have to, not only I don't move a lot, but also I don't have to carry that much weight when I'm moving my skinny arms and legs. So this one has a wider waist than shoulders. And the last one is this one that is just really muscular and also really fat, like this kind of like enforcer kind of bodyguard type of body. Now, what I want to show you about this is that, well, I started thinking about what makes them different when I was drawing them, and besides the fact that the legs have to answer to the type of weight that they're carrying, like if they're going to be carrying a lot of weight, they have to be stronger legs. If you try to do like skinny legs on a guy with a really big belly, it looks kind of weird. But the most important thing is this that I'm going to do right now. Like for example, in this guy, he has like really skinny shoulders, and it also has like really skinny hip, like not even that wide. It's like if you had to be proportionate, it's something like this, the hip. Something super skinny, almost like as if this was some sort of square, really thin square. Now, for the more athletic type, you have this really wide shoulders, and then you have this really narrow hip. And then for this more muscular guy, they have a lot of broad shoulders, and the hip and the waist are a lot bigger than on this other athletic type, like the kind of like something around here. And then for this guy, you have like, since he's not very muscular, you do have broader shoulders than the usual skinny type, because there's still like a lot of fat and some muscle. And then you have a much broader, here you have a much broader waist and hips. And then for this one, for the enforcer type, it's like super huge shoulders, and then it's like also super huge waistline and hips. And why I am talking about this, because, well, regarding body types, I found that these are the two things that are going to define the rest of the shape of the character that you're drawing, depending how broad the shoulders are going to be and depending how big the waist or how fat that is going to be, that is going to shape everything else. Once you decide that, you will realize that it becomes a lot easier to see how big or small the arms and the legs are going to be. So when you see the arms are also a lot different, but they, like, if I tried to do skinny arms on this guy, it wouldn't look the same. It would look like it's off, like it's not proportionate. So you have to think that when there's going to be muscle on one part of the body, there's going to probably be muscle, the same amount of muscle on the rest of the body, and when it comes to fat, it's going to be the same. So I'm thinking about this and thinking about this waistline, and I'm thinking about the hips, that in case of the man, the waistline and the hip is kind of the same thing. That's going to be, most of the time, they're going to be around the same of the same width. But when we're talking about women, well, it becomes a little bit more complicated, you know, like women. So here what I did is exactly the same. I started with some really skinny, not a lot of curves type of body type for a girl, and then I cloned it and I started doing the same thing. So this one is going to be like the more athletic side, that has more like an hourglass shape for her torso and her body. Now the most important thing about the difference between men and women is that men, because they don't have wide hips like women do, their shoulders are often going to be broader than their hips and the waist, unless they're like really fat, like that, you know, like the second from the right guy that I was just doing. Let me just show you. Like, unless you're going to be this guy right here, you can see that the rest of them have broader shoulders than they have their waistline. And that is, on women, that doesn't happen, because if we start with just athletic type of girls, they're going to have, their shoulders are going to be pretty much the same width as the hips. That's your starting point. Those two are going to be the same width. And then when you start playing with proportions, you're going to start doing one wider than the other, but you're going to have to, by keeping that as a starting point, you're going to see that it changes the shape, especially because by having wider hips, the shape of the leg in women are different. So, and that influences a lot the shape. So I'm going to show you right now. Now, the second one I did is like muscular type of girl, kind of like, you know, on the Overwatch ones, this would be like Sadia, so to speak. And you can see that because strong people, and let me see here, strong girls, they're going to have like these broad shoulders and going to be muscular, and they're also going to have muscular legs because of the shape of the hips that women have. The leg is going to start to get bigger, like a lot earlier, like around here. That's pretty much near the waistline. And since they're going to be muscular, the waistline is going to be wider as well. But since the hips are also wide and they have this muscular shape for the legs that is different than the men, it all goes to still have this hourglass shape that is going to be like a lot more exaggerated, like for example in this case, and of course on this case. But it still has that shape because we're talking about muscle and not fat, right? So now we move on to this one, and this one is like, you know, smaller shoulders but really broad hips. It is not a very muscular girl, and you can tell, like, well, these lines that can be a bit confusing there are for the arm, but you can tell that this is going to be wider than the shoulders, but it's still going to be like, well, not a lot. I mean, you can actually exaggerate that a lot if you can make it like really wide if you want to, for like maybe really fat girls. But you still have to, you're still going to be dealing with this hourglass kind of shape that men don't have. And last is going to be like this really muscular and kind of fat girl that would be like, you know, well, I don't know if I have any examples. Like, for example, the girls that toss the hammer in the Olympics. You know what I mean? That they had to carry a lot of weight and are also really muscular. Or maybe like for the strongman competitions, that they're also a strong woman competition. So when they you know, they throw these barrels full of concrete and stuff like that. I don't understand, but once in a while they're fun to watch. So here we have the same thing. Now, since the waistline is like nowhere to be found here, you still have to consider the ribcage here and the shape of the breasts. And it's still like, since we're talking about more and more fat increasingly as we go to the right, all this shape is going to, you know, being accumulated fat and muscle in this part. So this shape that in this particular case ends up here around the belly button. This one is going to, like the belly button is going to be here, and this one is going to be way up. But still, well, you know, you still have this hourglass kind of shape here. So if we're going to do the same thing that I did with the men, you have like really skinny shoulders and like, well, they're pretty much the same. So it's like, look, something like this. And here for the athletic side, we have this a bit broader shoulders, and the hips are going to be just around the same. And for this one, you have shoulders are going to be something like this. And well, maybe in this one it's going to be just a tad smaller, but still. And in this one, we can have like the shoulders are this big, and you can go a little bit wider here. And then for the strong woman, you can have this. And still the hips are going to be like this. And if you compare that proportion, if we compare it to the men, look at how different the men were, especially like this one right here. The proportion between shoulders and fat is a lot different than in the case of the women that are going to keep that proportion between shoulders and hips pretty much the same, even though it actually changes the body type the wider you get or the smaller you get. So now that I've seen this, I want to start playing not with just body types for regularly proportionate people, because you've seen like they're all like kind of medium size. So what about really tall people, or what about really short people? And what about personality through shape? That's what I want to do on the next video, but it's going to be like a really introduction, really beginner type of approximation, because I don't know much of the subject and I want to learn it. That's what I'm doing in this video. I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to show you what I learned, blah, 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 blah. You know how it is. So that's going to be it for today. My name is Javi and I can draw. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!